I am here, forgive me, because I'm going to share the screen that is there, but all my notes and everything, including the Zoom controls, are over here. So I am not ignoring you all. I'm going to pop this and share that. And so now with a little luck, you should be seeing my screen.
Okay.
So I could bounce in and out, and share and unshare, but I figured this way I'm just going to put everything up, talk about each section and what's going on here. So we're here to talk about Setapp tonight from MacPaw. So the first question I have for everybody is, how many of you just love subscription software? Raise your hands. No hands at all. Okay. Setapp is sort of subscription software, but not exactly. And so what happens is, if you subscribe to Setapp, you're subscribing to a set of applications of their choosing that you then get full access to, complete and total access to the most current versions of those applications. It's $9.99 a month. And for that, you get access to, when I counted it last week, over 220 applications that you can use if you're a Setapp subscriber. And the point I want to make, and we'll talk about this as we go through, is that these are not, the kind of no-name apps that you've never heard of. These are some of the very best apps out there. Not all of the best apps, because not everybody, all the developers want to subscribe to the Setapp model, and some can afford not to. But for what you get for $9.99 a month, you get an incredible number of apps. And in a little while, I will read off to you just some of the ones that I use on a regular basis. I frankly, when I started making the list, I thought, yeah, it'll be 10, 15, 20. And then I quit counting and quit naming them because they're just too many. So I guess the important thing to know, there are a bunch of important things to know about Setapp, just what I told you: access to over 220 applications. This does not mean that 220 applications are going to get loaded onto your system. You get to pick the ones that you want to install. You can install new ones anytime you want. You can obviously uninstall if you're not using them. This section here is the Setapp website, and we'll look at that in a minute. But over here, when you download Setapp, you get an application that includes all of their apps and lets you sort them and find them in different ways. This is the Setapp application already open. When you want to install one of these, all you do is click it. It will download that application. It will download it into a Setapp folder on your Mac. So that way it's slightly segregated from all the other apps. That way you know which version of an app that you're using. And that becomes pretty important, because inevitably you're going to find that there are some Setapp versions of apps that you probably already own. And then you need to make a decision on which version of that app you want to run. And when I say version, I mean literally the version. It's not the Setapp version of the apps are not hobbled or compromised in any way. But what they do is they are automatically updated in the background anytime that a new version becomes available. The most that might have to happen for you is that you'll get a little notification pop up in the top corner of your screen that will say, there's a new version of this, quit the app to update. And so if you quit the app and then give it a minute and relaunch it, you are now running the new version of the app. Most of that happens in the background, unless you just happen to have all those apps that you're using running all the time. So it's a pretty seamless experience. But I think there was one app I found that wasn't updated like, same day, or at least within maybe 48 hours. Other than that, you're getting the same updates, the same parity with someone who bought the app directly. So one of the big issues when Setapp came out, and it's hard to believe, but Setapp is now about 6 years old. And I'm going to throw another app, or excuse me, another link into the show note, into the chat. You don't want to do this. Look at this one. I can't find the chat in this. There it is. This is an interview we did on Mac Voices with Alexander, the president and CEO of Setapp. Jeff Gamet, Brett Terpstra, and I interviewed him because, frankly, we were a bit skeptical about Setapp. Brett came on as an author who had an application on. Jeff at the time was working for the Mac Observer, and I'm just me. And we walked through everything, and including our concern about how are the developers getting paid. And because, this sounds great for us, my gosh, $10 for all of these apps, access to all of these apps. And basically what it amounts to is the developers get paid based on the amount of time that you are using their application. So if you download Setapp and you use one application, then with the exception of the obvious little bit of overhead that Setapp keeps, all of your money goes to that developer. If you download two, then your $9.99 minus the overhead gets split between two developers. You're more likely going to be splitting it up between 20 or 30 developers, frankly. But the whole idea was that, yeah, the popular apps get, they get the majority of the money, but everybody kind of has a fair shot at getting as much as they can. So it's not like you can designate where your money goes, with the exception of using the app or apps that you want to support the most. And to be very candid, I doubt that any of us really think that right on top, that I'm going to be using my app just to support the developer. But it may be a consideration if you already own a version of an app that you've already paid for, or, are subscribed to. Frankly, if you subscribe to it, there's no reason to continue, just get Setapp. But it is one thing, because I know I have a couple applications on my Mac that I purchased access to, and then found out that they were in Setapp. And so I stopped using the ones I'd already paid for, because that way it wasn't costing me any extra, and it was giving that developer just a little more incentive, a little more money to keep their apps updated and continue to improve them. Very, 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 very seldom does an application leave Setapp. It has happened. I think the one that jumps to mind is iMazing, that at one point the iPhone or iOS and iPadOS app, it was on Setapp, and they decided to step away. So there's no prohibition from somebody coming or going. It just doesn't happen that often. And frankly, that tells me that this is a success from every angle, especially from the developer side, that they must feel it's worth it. As to new apps are added on a pretty consistent basis. In fact, it's become a bit of a joke on the Mac Show on the British Tech Network that we do weekly picks, and inevitably somebody will pick a new app, and then we always end up with, and it's available on Setapp. So it's a steady stream of new apps. But again, the stress I want to make here is that these are very, very high quality apps. And let me go and get my notes here. This is a very quick list, and I know I'll apologize, but I'm going to go down through it just to give you an idea. But Gemini, Photo Revive, MindNode, Clean My Mac X, Archiver, PDF Squeezer, Cloud Mounter, iThoughts X, Boom 3D, iStats Menu, Swift Publisher, Disk Drill, Screens, Permute, iFlix, Workspaces, Trip Mode, Mosaic, Bartender, Better Touch Tool, BusyCal, Busy Contacts, Nitro PDF Pro, which used to be PDF Pen, Yoink, Mars Edit, Default Folder. That's where I stopped counting. And I would think if you've been around the Mac for more than about 2 hours, you've heard of a lot of those apps. And several of them, frankly, are on my just absolute have to have list. What else do we need to tell you about Setapp? Also, as a Setapp subscriber, you also get access to some of the apps that cross over from the Mac over to the iPad and iPhone. Ulysses is a good example. In fact, I just saw there was a big update to Ulysses today that supports tables. The list of the things that cross over is not nearly as extensive as you might imagine, because this is still or in early stages on iOS. MindNode is one that I use on a pretty consistent basis, but there are a whole lot more to go here. And to go back to the Mac side, to all the apps, there's probably an app. It might not be the one that you would necessarily choose if you were just buying separately, but there's an app for pretty much everything. I mean, email clients, social media clients, photo utilities. Here's a color management utility, compression and unarchivers. So things that you may be out there paying for already, or thinking about paying for, you no longer need to pay the upgrade price or whatever. You can just subscribe to Setapp, and they're all going to be right there, and they're going to be automatically updated. And if anything does leave Setapp for any reason, you will get notification that it's leaving. And depending on what the arrangement is with the developer, you may be able to continue to use that version and just be sealed off from updates. But if you think about it, that means you really haven't lost anything, especially if you're using more than 3 or 4 of these applications. And I would venture to say that the odds are pretty good that that's exactly what you're going to do. Another advantage here is that, again, you have access to the full application. So no more demo versions, no more, wondering, gee, I have 5 days to try this out. Is it my 3rd or 4th day, or did I blow it and it's already day number 7? And now I have to buy the app if I want to see what it, see if I like it or not. You could literally download all of these, launch them on your Mac, try them, and then weed out the ones you don't want. I personally think it's a whole lot easier to download the ones I'm interested in, but that's your choice. But I can't stress enough just what a great value this is for you as the consumer, and as a way to support developers that are out there that face some competition from other things and are trying a little bit something new and different in the distribution model. There's been so much controversy about, is the Apple App Store a good deal or not for the developers? And that's a conversation that is a whole different subject. But just the fact that it is a conversation, I think, makes it very interesting. This is another way to do it. And so far, much to my surprise, Apple seems to have had no problem with it. I don't know if they don't consider it a threat, or if there's just no way they can prevent this from being done. Just like there's no way for them that, as far as I know, there's no way for them to easily prevent an application developer from selling both on the store and off the store, as long as there is some kind of price parity. And here, this is kind of strange, because there's no price parity, because there's really no direct charge for each individual app. So be that as it may. So again, $9.99 a month, and that's up to 5 devices. Okay, so think about that for a second too. Unless you buy through the App Store and have the App Store installed on all of your devices, if you're downloading individually from many of the developers, not all, but many, they usually have some kind of limitation on how many machines you can install it on. Here, I can install it on 5 different Macs, especially, and that's especially important for some of my critical utilities. And the management is very easy. If I decide that I want to switch, turn it off on one Mac and turn it back on another, that's what you do. You just do it right from within the app, within the website. It's very, very easy to do. In fact, that's what I did tonight. What you're seeing, the reason you're only seeing one app in the Setapp folder is because I installed this on a different user on this machine, so it wouldn't be cluttered up with too much stuff, and you could get to see it. But yeah, again, I could go down all the list. Bartender, how many of us have too many menu bar apps? Bartender is something that is absolutely essential on my main production machine. I mentioned MindNode before. Where's my list? I mentioned MindNode before. I don't know if any of you are into mind mapping, but if you aren't, you probably should be, because it's a whole lot of fun. iStat menus, I think every geek, has that installed in their menu bar. iFlix is great for putting metadata into video files that you might have laying around, TV shows or movies, to transfer over to your iPad or just for your own collection. BusyCal and Busy Contacts are my two go-tos for calendar and contacts. I could just go on and on. I mean, there's so many things here, and default folder is the one I have installed here is definitely absolutely essential. I'm almost afraid to try anything, because this works seamlessly, and the one time that I try it here live, it probably won't. But when you install Setapp, the first thing you do, obviously, is it requires you to give it full disk access. And then, depending on which application you are installing, it may require you to go back in and install specific permissions for that app. So it's just like if you were downloading it from the website. How am I doing so far? Does that everything make sense? Everything falling into place for you all?
Do you want people, I've got about 15 questions, and do you want people to jump in with questions, or should we wait?
Sure. By all means, go for it. Go for it.
Okay. So it occurs to me that one of the advantages is if there's Bartender and there's a couple of other apps that use the same, that perform the same function, and I can't think of them off the top of my head, but if more than one of them is on here, I guess an advantage would be that you get to try, like 3 different apps to do essentially the two mind mapping, MindNode,
Yes.
and the other one I noticed is on here.
Yeah.
So if you have to go ahead.
Yeah, I thought X. Yeah.
I thought X. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So you could
Right.
try. I mean, that would be an advantage to flip back and forth and see which one floats your boat, so to speak.
Right. And I mean, it's interesting you would pick that one, because I like both of those. I sort of like iThought's X graphical representations just a little bit better, but I find MindNode easier to use. So, that means with this, I can have both of them. And as we're not going to go down the whole mind mapping route, or we'll be here all night, but you also can move data back and forth between the two. So you basically have bought both of those, find out which one you like, and if you need to move it over back and forth, you can do that.
Right.
And you're right. I mean, there are not a lot of duplicates, Linda, but there are some duplicates. And once more, you're not using demo versions. You're going to be using full versions.
Okay. And what about, let me see. So Setapp has to know if I'm using whichever one of the mind mapping apps or anything else. They have to know how much time I'm spending on that app. Is there a privacy concern there? Maybe not.
Not as far as I know. I've never even seen that raised, because I would say yes, it does. In fact, forgive me for going off to the side for just a second, but since these things are online, you've installed the application, you can use them offline in a plane, no problem. So you don't have an issue there. But yeah, I guess in theory, I don't know if it collects it on an ongoing basis or totals it up at the end of the month, or what the mechanics are behind it. But I've never seen anyone express any concern over it. Never even heard it really raised before.
Okay, that's because I listened to Bart.
Yeah, well, yeah.
That's I'll hush up for now. I'm sure I have more, but I'll be quiet.
I mean, really, it's in some ways, well, there's just not a lot more to tell you, because it just does what it does. It does it so well. that, all you have to do is decide whether you want, a sufficient number of these apps to justify $9.99 a month.
Right.
And
Can you,
so,
could I, try it for a couple months? I go, okay, for a couple months, I'm just going to see what I do and then unsubscribe, and there's not an issue.
no, yes. You have a 7-day trial period to start off, and then you can subscribe, but you can cancel the subscription at any time.
Okay. And what do you, I know these guys are based in Ukraine. Do you hear anything recent from them, like how they're doing?
Only from the fact that, they've made a point of publicizing that, their teams, their team is scattered all over the world. And that, they are still absolutely maintaining, improving, supporting Setapp, just like they do all their apps. So the direct answer to your question is no, but I imagine they have, some other things that are, pretty important to them right now, but they are seriously committed to continuing to do what they do and do it well. And I know several of the team members personally. I've been to dinner with them at CES, and I just can't even begin to tell you how weird it is to think of the people that I sat in a restaurant in Vegas with, might be in a bunker somewhere holding a rifle defending their country.
Yeah.
That just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
But they are really, really, really good people, and they do a phenomenal job with all of their apps. And this was a brainstorm of theirs, and it works
Okay. I
completely.
guess the other thing that I would be more interested in is seeing more apps that are on their list, because I mean, there are a few that I'm familiar with and that I have even used or I may have already on my Mac, but it would be interesting to see what else is on there.
Yeah. Hang on here. Let me see if I can scroll down here. Search all the apps. It's probably a little easier to display on the website. All the apps. So, like they do, here are a couple of the newly added ones. Since you are seeing my whole screen, let me try to drag that out a little bit. Is that good and visible? Okay, so, but here, I'll try to go relatively slow. But there's Gemini, which I think I mentioned, Ulysses, which honestly surprised me that it's here. Let's see. Oh, show all. There we go. There's an email client. There's a calculator. Tripsy, which is looks to be, I haven't tried this yet, but it looks to be a competitor to TripIt, which I'm a huge fan of TripIt, so I will be trying Tripsy just for the sake of comparison. Archiver, PDF Squeezer. If any of you have ever tried to send large PDFs through the mail and they won't go, this can be really, really useful. Rocket Typist, which is a competitor to Text Expander, same concept. If I'm going too fast, somebody yell at me. Rapid Weaver has been around for a long time. It's a great way to create websites, without needing to dig into the code. Let's see. There's Task Paper for task management. There are a couple task manager. There's Be Focused, another to-do list. There's iStat menus that I mentioned. Get Backup Pro, another backup utility of one flavor or another. There's Jump Desktop and Screens, both are which for connecting remotely to a Mac. Swift Publisher. I don't know if you've ever anybody. This is terrible. There's still people out there that are producing things for paper, and Swift Publisher is going to, give you 90%, if not more, of everything you need without having to jump to something like InDesign or something you're going to pay a ridiculous amount of money for. Disk Drill is good for recovering files. Permute, or I guess that's how you pronounce it, Permute. I've used this surprisingly to do some conversions that were very difficult in other applications that do those, and it handled them wonderfully. So that was sort of a nice find. There's Downy for downloading YouTube videos. ChronoSync Express. This deserves just a quick comment. Some of you maybe have seen some of the recent news that ChronoSync now does creates bootable backups. This version does not, because it is ChronoSync Express. There is a full version of ChronoSync that does have that capability. Express seems to have everything but that ability, as far as I can tell. But it's worth talking about or mentioning. iFlix I mentioned. NetSpot, best network connection. There's another calendar, Instacal. Workspaces, I'm just playing with that right now, but it's great because you can, set up basically your windows and have a number of applications and windows launch all together and go right back into the places where you want them, which I love that, because I don't know about you, but I'm forever opening windows and leaving them open, and pretty soon I have a mess. Better Zip, side note, World Clock, Mosaic, which is another great way to organize your windows. I mean, I almost hate to, to call specific things out, just because these are all great apps. Some of which are, you've heard of maybe a little more, depending on what you do with your apps. Text Soap is great for, cleaning up your text. Bartender we mentioned, Better Touch Tool. If you have a trackpad, this is like indispensable.
You've got an app for removing objects from photos.
Yep.
There,
Touch,
retouch. I don't know if
retouch.
you use that particular one. I know there's several of them that do.
Yeah, and I think there's at least one or two others here that we may have already gone by.
Okay, all right.
Busy Kyle, Busy Contacts.
Drop Zone I've heard of.
Yeah, Drop Zone.
Another PDF.
Yes.
Nitro.
Nitro, that's PDF Pen. They bought PDF
Oh,
Pen from Smile.
Okay.
So that's Nitro.
It is PDF Pen now. Okay, all right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, here we go. Yoink. I love Yoink. I use Yoink literally daily.
What does that do? I don't know that.
It's one of those little shelf apps that you can drag things to the shelf and then put them back, or put things permanently on the shelf if you use them multiple times. Okay. My use case for that is the artwork for the Mac Voices files. I just have the logo in there, and it's there all the time, and I never have to open anything. I just drag it from the corner of my screen over into iTunes and to update the art.
Okay.
Luminar is kind of an amazing program that's using AI to improve your photos, and they just keep doing some incredible things with it. Mars Edit is what I use to maintain all the websites. If you're publishing a website and you're not using Mars Edit to create your content for that website, you're crazy. This is really, really good. Another video player that takes in all formats. Trickster is another way to access recently used files quickly. That is from, I believe, Manytrick software.
Oh.
I think I have that one right.
Some of their other apps don't appear to be on here, although yeah, because we've had them as a guest, but it's been a few years. So, but they had another one that you could put a specific window and in a specific spot, and it would be there kind of permanently. I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's Mosaic or not. I know they have several apps. I don't know that they're all on here.
I want to say yeah, that's not it.
Yeah. Default folder.
That was it. It was Moom.
Moom. Yes, you're right. Moom.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
default folder, again, that's an app that everybody should be using, because no matter who you are, it will benefit you. Text Sniper, that's been Sherlocked a little bit by some of the new features in iOS. But I mean, think about how long we've been sitting here scrolling. Just
Chuck, how is this? This is a list of other apps, but I mean, how is it categorized? They're not alphabetical. They don't seem to be by, I can't see a category. But if you go in there, I mean, are you gonna have to search through each one of these? I mean, to find what you're looking for? Is there a grouping of certain kinds of apps or what?
The easiest way, both, here, well, let me do it here. I mean, right here, you have the categories
Oh, I see.
that they've
Okay.
broken them down into. If you
Ah,
go
okay. And we just looked at all.
right, yeah,
Okay,
I'm not,
Gotcha.
I'm not sure, what the logic is here with the way they have them presented, except to say that if I were creating this website, I would probably find a way to either add to the top or to the bottom. I wouldn't be rearranging them constantly.
Yeah.
That would be quite a task.
Yeah, I didn't see that on the left. Yeah, that's, I see, right.
Yeah. If you go to the application in all the all apps area, they are in alphabetical order.
Ah, okay.
So, and of course you have a search bar up here that, and also on the website, so that
Sure.
if you want to know if something in particular is in Setapp, just go there.
Right. Yeah, thank you.
Certainly. But yeah, I mean, the more I've used Setapp, the bigger fan I become, just because they continue to add value. If they just froze everything and gave me, a subset of apps, that the ones that I really need, I'd be a subscriber, because it obviously benefits everybody. But the fact that they keep adding it, just in my mind, just adds more value to the product. So I know a lot of people are not happy with, seeing that charge on their credit card every month, but this one is, I think, well worth it, because I mean, just pick five of the apps that you think you would consistently use, or maybe already consistently use. And you're going to find yourself, pushing that equivalent, because it's, I mean, that's $120 a year. And these are some pretty high powered apps. And
just in terms of productivity, PDF Pen, Nitro PDF and BusyCal alone are worth it.
Exactly.
Do you know anything about this app, Meta? It's not up on the screen right now. It said something about managing. Where did it go?
Right here.
No, that's
Whoops.
Meta Image. There was another one. There was another one.
There was?
It was,
Okay,
yeah, it said something about, it said some, yeah, it was,
There you go.
here it is. Manage music libraries. Do you know anything about that?
Not a thing.
All right.
Not
Okay.
a thing. But, subscribe to Setapp and find out.
The only reason I'm asking is because I have a friend who's griping about iTunes. So,
Okay.
all right.
Yeah.
Curiosity.
But yeah, I mean, that
I am-
in some ways, Wendy, you kind of hit at one of the central themes here is, if you see something that looks interesting, you can download it and start to play with it.
Right.
And if you don't like it, it doesn't suit you, then just delete it.
Right.
I'm curious how much people go in and make use of apps and decide, this is good enough, I'm going to go out and buy the app independently.
The only reason you would do that would be to support the developer. Other than that, you've got access to it here, and if you are using that app, you are supporting the developer through Setapp. And arguably, this would kind of depend, but to my way of thinking, this kind of solves what the developers have talked about for so long, that they need more of an income flow, as opposed to that one hit where, Charles, you go and buy it, in June of 2022, And then maybe you buy an update, or maybe you don't buy an update next year when they bring it out, if they even charge for it. Here, it's not as much of that quick hit, but it is a steady source of income for them if their app is good enough to attract an audience.
Interesting.
Other questions, comments? I'm kind of curious to see, you've been looking at this list as we've scrolled by. Is there anything that really, Linda jumped out with Meta? Is there anything that anybody here has experience with or looks like they'd really want to try?
Another one I'm curious about is Keysmith, create a shortcut for any action, because I never get to shortcuts. And I'm just wondering if makes it easier, if you're familiar with that.
No, I'm not. It's funny you say that, Linda, because I was looking at this tonight. It's like, yeah, I'd like to know a little bit more about that. Create a shortcut for any action. So I assume that means an Apple shortcut, as in shortcut.
Yeah.
Not a keystroke.
Oh, yeah, right. Oh, it could be a keystroke though, because of the logo.
Right.
That would be all right. That would, all right. Who knows?
But even, I mean, however you do it, if you can, if you can do something that you want to do.
Yeah, without all the fooling around in the system prefs, right?
Right.
That you do, yeah. Like, okay, yeah.
So it's a simple presentation to make, because there are only about 10 real questions to ask. And then after you do that, then you start talking about which apps are your favorites and which ones you're thinking about trying or would want to try.
Just receive persistent reminders. Do we want that?
Well, maybe some of us need it, Linda. I'm not calling any names.
I didn't say anything about need.
Hootspot is also a great search program for looking for files. You can be very specific about what you're looking for, where you're looking for it, what it contains. Very powerful program. I owned it before I went to Setapp a few years ago.
I don't use it, but OpenIn is one that I know several people have recommended, that you can select what browser you open something in. So that if you have an application that or a link or whatever that works better in one browser than another, and you have your default browser, let's just say set to Safari, but you really should have opened that in Chrome, then you got to close Safari or copy the link, close Safari, open it in Chrome. And so if that's a problem for you, that solves it pretty quickly. There's what you need, Linda. Almighty, unlock the 50 plus Mac shortcuts there. You're bound to find something in there.
Yeah.
I see one nice one in there, PDF search, that it says allows you to do a better search within PDFs. Anyone who's actually made use of PDFs, especially for like reference documentation, knows that some of the formatting in there can be evil.
It's funny you say that, because I have a situation now where each month I get a particular set of PDFs, and I want to go in and copy and paste out of them, and it is all screwed up. I mean, it's like I put my cursor there and I drag it. Whoops, I can't. Drag it across. Won't let me do it there. Let's do it over here. Drag it across. Well, never mind. But you drag it across and it selects like a paragraph and a half, or it selects asynchronously. It makes no sense whatsoever. And so I end up, usually having to retype the darn text. So yeah, that's a good point. I haven't even thought about playing with something like that for that purpose. Yeah, I want to know who authored those PDFs and in what, so I can hunt them down.
Pareto Security. Do you know anything about that one? I know I've heard that, but I don't know. I think favorably, but I would need to. Okay.
Where was it, Linda?
On the, where did it go? I scrolled away from it. It was on the far left column. but I lost it. Scrolled down a little bit and let me see where it went.
PARETO.
Yeah. No, I don't see it now. Maybe it was the other direction. Sorry.
What is it? CORRETO?
No, P like Paul.
PAR.
P like Paul.
PA.
There it is.
Oh, Pareto. Oh, Pareto. Excuse me. I was hearing something different. Pareto Security. No,
Okay.
don't know anything about that one.
All right.
Detail, all of a sudden we're with continuity camera, we're seeing a lot of applications come out. I like camo. I've not tried detail, so I can't tell you, but it's a great idea to improve your webcam setup. Wonder Bucket, flow. No, not Wonder Bucket, but there's another one on here too that will turn folders. Well, no, turns a folder into a website. I'm thinking of the ones that turn a URL into a dedicated website. That's in here too. Yeah, I mean, there's so much stuff here to explore, and for $10 a month, I just don't think you can beat it.
How well do these guys do on discovery? If they keep adding new things in there, do they send along notifications saying, hey, we've got this new thing for you to try?
You can subscribe to emails, but you will also often see a little pop-up in the corner of your window that this is new on Setapp, and click it and you can go and try it or find out what it is. Obviously it doesn't install it before that. It gives you that option. App Tamer is another one that that's one I know you've heard of. Short menu to shorten URLs. Timeless. I avoid deadline anxiety. If I had any sense, I'd download that right now. So
there's even an app in there for tracking recipes.
Yes, there is. What's Home Inventory is here too. Home Inventory is a great app. That being in the insurance industry as I am, I wish more people would inventory their stuff so that when their house burns down, they know what's there. And hopefully it doesn't happen to you, but if it does, it'll be time well spent. So yeah, so that's Setapp.
Yeah, very good.
That's Setapp. I would encourage you to definitely check it out. The URL I threw in, for the interview, I think is worth listening to if you're concerned, especially about the developer support side of it, because Jeff and I threw a lot of questions out, and they had answers for every one. And by the end of the interview, it's like, yeah, this is a very positive thing. And again, Apple's left them alone. So hopefully it will continue, because otherwise I'm going to have a pretty heavy hit to my credit card for buying all the apps that I use on here. Oh, and you know what I should mention too, I kind of skipped over just a little bit, but the apps that are available, the crossover apps for iOS, you need to go in and you install them from the App Store in the normal fashion, and then just use Setapp to basically hook them up so that they know that you have access to them.
Oh, I see. I think.
Yeah, it's just a process to go through, but it's painless and easy.
Okay.
And it's, oh, there's Tripsy. Yeah, I mentioned that before.
And your Find Anything is in there.
Yep. Newton, I know we saw that over here as Photo Revive is here too. So I didn't even know there was a Pomodoro timer with analytics.
Oh, yeah, that would
be... I don't know that I need anybody analyzing my Pomodoros, but
is this a clipboard manager? This never lose anything you copy? You see it in the upper right hand corner?
Oh yeah, here.
Yeah.
Oh yes. Paste is it's not one that I use. I have it installed. I just don't use it. because there are a couple that fit what I do a little bit better. But
Right.
yeah, that's exactly what that is.
Okay.
And I would imagine it's cross-platform. So that's one of those that maintains the
Wow.
clipboard files in maybe iCloud or Dropbox so that copy it on one and it's available on both.
Okay. Text into audio. Ooh,
Yeah.
okay.
Sorry.
right. That's okay. Sorry.
Okay. So next month, everybody ask Linda, which app she's using out of Setapp, because I think
Yeah.
that she's going to be subscribing.
I don't know. Maybe. I've got to get my new Mac and get it put together yet. So we'll have to see.
Oh yeah, no, we have no sympathy at all for you buying a Mac Studio. Okay, so I got to ask, which chip did you get?
Oh, low end. Which chip was it, Charles? Do you remember off the top? Ultra?
That was
What
the
was
Max.
Ultra? What was it?
It's the Max.
Yeah, I actually don't need the power of that, but I wanted the larger screen because I'm used to the 27-inch iMac and I didn't want to go to the smaller iMac. So I really don't need the power on that. And I was kind of like back and forth and just, I do want the space also, the disk space. So yeah. So yeah, it's not going to be, I don't even do any video. Might do some photo editing, but that's probably about all I do. Maybe a teeny bit of, something with a video of my cat, right? So not much, but anyway, but I'm excited because I haven't had a new Mac for a while and I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, sure. How could you not?
Yeah.
How could you not?
One more question here on the software.
Sure.
Are they handling updates to the new Apple Silicon stuff okay?
Again, far as I know, I've seen no complaints, and I certainly have not had any issues with the apps that are installed on my my M1s.
Yeah.
And
As an example, I see one of the apps that's there is an item for putting widgets onto your desktop. And I'm unclear at this point what the support status of widgets are.
I couldn't tell you, because I've never been a widget fan. So, but Charles, let's put it this way. I think that it would be no different than if you had the desktop app. So, I'm sure that there are things here that if you're running the iOS, the betas, any of the betas, that you're going to have the same problems you would as if you were running, the regular purchased version of the app, because they have parity.
You've got a question in chat. Will is asking, he says, I see they offer 50% discounts to students and teachers, but it's charged yearly rather than monthly.
I'm not surprised, didn't know about that.
Yeah, it's there.
Just because I'm not to be smart about it, I'm not a teacher. So I never pay much attention to some of that.
Okay. I see.
So.
It's also worth noting that there is a Setapp version for iOS.
Yes, that's what we were talking about over here.
Yeah, so it's not just, these are apps that run on iOS. It's that there is a full Setapp subscription available over on iOS as well.
Excuse me. Yes. So this is one of those value things in my opinion, and it's not like you're dealing with apps that nobody's ever heard of. And that's always sort of the thing that bothers me about those bundles that, periodically pop out, that they have one or two really, high profile apps. I mean, it's almost like the mall, they've got one or two anchor stores, and then they have all these other things in the middle that, may or may not be of interest to you, but they're kind of banking on the two big anchor stores to pull you in. And here, there are no just one or two big anchor stores. There are a bunch of apps that we all know, and there's some that are not well known yet, but I have a lot of faith in the Setapp folks to have vetted these so that they are on parity with the kind of quality you would expect from some of the top tier. Because it's not going to do them any good to, okay, you have access to 500 apps if 400 of those apps are junk. That's all that's going to do is just push you out the door more, and it's going to dilute the money for the good apps, because inevitably some of the bad apps will pull some of the money off. So if you think about it just from the business standpoint, it's in everybody's best interest, including Setapp, to just give you good quality apps that work and do what you want them to do, and not just piggyback on a bunch of Me Too apps. And there's nothing wrong with Me Too apps, because sometimes the Me Too apps do things that the high profile apps don't do, or they do it in a different way, so that it might be a way you like better.
Okay, very good.
So I hope that gives you a window into Setapp and what it can do, and do for you. I would definitely tell you, with 7-day trial, by all means, please go out and give it a shot.
Yeah. You can, even if you need more time, you could do it for a month, and that's $10. It's not that big a deal for,
No.
So yeah, if people want to play with it more.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, in a month, you can try out a lot of apps.
Yeah.
And decide what's for you.
Yeah.
So,
Okay,
yeah.
very good. Very good. Thank you, Chuck.
Hey, thank you all for having me. It's always fun. I always enjoy it.
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
Hey.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, you're more than welcome. Everybody, stay safe out there, and see you next time.
Okay. See you then. Thanks, Chuck.
Take care. Thanks.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Chuck.
Bye-bye.